you hear them, you know them. Their mix of rock, pop, and ska give them their own distinct sound. Their infectious beats have been keeping us dancing for 20 years. No doubt, they're back with their new album, Push and Shove.
We wrote this record in a really different way. Like we only could really work 3 to 4 days a week without getting burnt out because it was challenging and it doesn't come fast. And we wanted to make a record that we were really proud of.
We really started writing this album in earnest in 2010. We wrote it in that year. We recorded it mostly in 2011, and here we are.
We had no idea what direction we were going to go in when we started making the record. We just started by listening to stuff we love and listening to songs that we wish we wrote and kind of analyzing that. And it's so great having like Tom, because he is the one person in the band that is really schooled musically.
You know, for us, it's really hard to pinpoint like one specific sound that this band does. A lot of bands do one thing. But for us, we do a lot. We cover a lot of ground, and I think that's a strength. And so this album, I think, reflects that.
So we try to sound like everyone else that we love, but we always end up sounding like us. It's the weirdest thing.
Our influences are kind of weird in that it's a lot of 80s new wave stuff. It seems to be British stuff. It's like Depeche Mode and The Cure. But at the same time, everybody in the band loved like British ska music and Madness and the Specials. And those two worlds are similar, but they're different. And that's really the palette that we draw from.
We would write a lot of stuff in the past, and we'd have 20 or 30 songs and pick the best 10 for the album. Mm-hmm. This time it was like we would spend so much time on each song making sure the chorus was as good as the verse was as good as the bridge. And if it wasn't, we'd spend weeks fixing it, just to make sure it felt right.
Because it's the songwriting of actually getting the song. And then once we had the songs, we had to adapt them to the band and like, what is that going to be? What's the sound going to be? How are they going to be produced? And that took just as long.
That's the thing we learned. You can't rush songwriting.
Mm-mm.
Like you can't, if you try to, you're just going to end up with the crappy stuff. I think one of the big reasons we brought Spike on board is we knew this record was going to be a journey, and we needed someone who was familiar. And Spike was really enthusiastic to work with us.
We never really worked with him as a producer before. He was more of a mixer.
We met Spike when he mixed Rocksteady, and that was a really kind of big milestone for us because he was based in London at the famous Olympic Studios. And the great thing about Spike is we had worked with 5 or 6 different producers on Rocksteady. 7. And Spike was able to make it a cohesive sounding. He took these, 12 tracks from 7 different producers and make them sound like an album. And that started our relationship with Spike. And then Spike mixed and did additional production on both of Gwen's records. He worked on that Elon record that I did. He mixed It's My Life for our Greatest Hits record. And we've just done a lot of stuff with him over the years. He literally moved his family from England to the US to work on our record. And he's been here since. And he made a real commitment to us, and we appreciate it very much.
After Rocksteady, we all decided that we wanted to take a break. And it was at that time where I don't know why, because I don't know how to take a break, I was like, oh, maybe we could make a dance record. And it was supposed to be a 1 record thing. And then that turned into 2 records. And it also turned into 2 babies, because then I ended up having 2 babies. So that got us up to when we decided to make another new No Doubt record. Yeah.
It seems like, it's 11 years, but there was so much stuff going on in between. We did the Greatest Hits tour, we put out the Greatest Hits record. And the thing is, we saw each other like at kids events and family events and stuff like that. So it almost felt like there was a connection, even though we were kind of maybe not in the studio every day or maybe not on stage together every day. We still saw each other quite often.
Personally, I'm most at home really in the studio. I enjoy the creation process, and then I wanted to be a producer. So I met this young man who was a talented songwriter and a singer, and I said, come into my home studio. The stuff we recorded I helped him, find a record label and get him signed and put it out, and it went really well.
I spent a lot of time writing with people. I wanted to get kind of outside my comfort zone. The first thing that came along is I did some songs for a movie soundtrack, 50 First Dates. The next thing was, I started working with this kid named Elon, and he is a reggae artist, and I got him a deal at Interscope and kind of got to oversee that whole project, and it ended up being great. I worked with some great artists. I worked with Pink, I did some songs on her Funhouse record, and then finished the songs on Gwen's second record, 3 songs on that record. And then came the time to start writing again with the band.
I played on a lot of different people's records. I did some live things with a few bands, one of which was an 80s band that I grew up loving called Bow Wow Wow. But then I have this other thing that I do, and it's called golfing. It's I play a lot of competitive golf, and I travel to do it. And that's like a totally separate life and lifestyle. Being kind of a partying rock star at times, and then all of a sudden trying to be an athlete and very serious and regimented, and the worlds could not be more opposite.
Most of the songs started with a beat, and then on most songs, because I know Gwen loves keyboards, we started with keyboards.
Yeah.
And to get the juices flowing. But this was one we did where it was a guitar riff that started the song out, which was a little unusual, but it was, sonically the dance hall beat with the guitar is something we didn't really do before on Rocksteady. So it was more of an earthy.
That's true.
An earthy blend of styles, and somehow the song evolved out of that.
Mm-hmm. I remember when we wrote it thinking we have written the new Macarena. And I was so proud. We really are a live band. That's what we've always kind of been. I think that we're good at the songwriting part, and is always the challenging part. And I feel like we made the best record we've ever made. I definitely feel that way about this record. But to be able to play live is going to be the reward.
The last tour we did in 2009, as great as it was, we were playing no new material, and the new songs on this record are so good, it's so energetic, like we've been talking about, that I can't wait to play these songs live. It's going to be really, really exciting.
It's just like once you go live and you actually meet the people that are making it all happen, like the people that actually care about you and inspire you to make music, it all feels real. Otherwise, it doesn't feel real. It just feels like nothing feels real until you go on tour.
That's such a good point.
Right?
That's what that tour was in 2009.
Yeah.
That's why it felt so real. It was a reminder that, yes, we get to go out and play these songs live and get to play shows and connect with all these
people that care, the people that make us relevant and make our music like worth writing.
You can